Welcome back, everyone. If you're new here, my name is Bryan Jenks, and today we're going to talk about Zotero. It's been a while. I've said it over and over again that I was going to talk about my updated workflow and how I've dealt with the Zotero 6 release and how that's impacted the MDNotes workflow of extracting your notes and annotations from your marked up PDFs into Markdown inside of Obsidian for the use in your Zettelkasten. And today's the day. I went through it, I figured out how things are set up, and we're going to get into it. And hopefully this will answer all the questions that I've been getting about why the old workflows don't work anymore. It's because of the new release. We're going to talk about that today, so stay tuned. So, the issue. What is the issue that occurred that we are trying to solve for? Before, in the old version of Zotero that all the videos on my channel were using and all about, there was, in effect, the way that you would modify PDFs to add annotations and highlights is that the actual file itself, the PDF file, would have that markup added to it and retained within the file. The difference now is that that markup is no longer actually added to the file if you edit within Zotero directly. And because in the new interface in Zotero 6, you have to modify the PDFs using their interface. You could open it in another application. But now, when you edit inside of Zotero 6 and take advantage of all the new features, it doesn't store the annotations onto the file directly. It's stored, I think, in the Zotero database or something else. But in essence, the Zot file plugin that would extract the annotations from the document into a Zotero note object didn't really work anymore. And the extracted items after that fact weren't working with the MDNotes plugin either. Well, finally, I figured it all out, hammered it all out. I'm going to provide all of my settings, all the configurations. If you want my templates, you know where to go for those. Description, sign up for that. All this is going to be accessible to you for free in some shape or form, period. But that was basically the problem. You could no longer easily get your notes from the PDFs into your Zettelkasten in Obsidian. And how do we solve that problem? This is what I've been asked nonstop, over and over again, because all my old videos showed the old workflow. So today, this is going to be how I'm approaching the current workflow. The best ways to support the channel are, if you're going to do it on an ongoing basis, GitHub sponsors because they take no fees, followed by Patreon. If you're going to do like a one-time thing, buy me a coffee, PayPal, or just fine. And if you just want to support me without any money involved, the best thing you can do is like, comment, subscribe, share the video, and that's it. Okay, first things first. This is literally one of the issues that I went through. Before you start following along with this video, make sure you have updated Zotero, the MDNotes plugin within Zotero, the Zot file plugin within Zotero, and Obsidian itself, as well as all of your plugins. Make sure it's all updated. Because, no lie, one of the problems I was having with my workflow is that Zotero, for whatever reason, wasn't updated to the latest version, and neither was the MDNotes plugin add-on at all, because I did have automatic update, but for some reason, it just didn't happen. So, updating those will hopefully solve a lot of the problems that you might be experiencing, and then you can follow along with some of what I have to actually implement the workflow that I've got going on. So let's dive into that. All right, so let's do a refresh on the way I have my system set up so that you can see that not much has changed, a little bit has, not barely anything, and then how I'm using my approach with all these new fixes. So, diving in. I use Zotero pretty much exactly the same way as my older videos. A couple small things have changed. I now edit the PDFs and do the annotations and markup and all that stuff within Zotero itself. I don't really use any of the external applications anymore. With Zotero having the functionality of editing PDFs within it and the release of their mobile application, my whole video on doing PDF editing on a tablet kind of became irrelevant because the application that they put out, it does it for both your phone and tablets, or at least, if you have an iPad. So in that respect, the Zotfile tablet workflow video I made might work if you have a tablet that's not an iPad. It doesn't use an app store or something like that. I'm not sure if it's on for Android or not, but most of the stuff that I make content about, workarounds and workflows, are kind of now simplified by some of the work that the Zotero team has done. Nice job, everybody. Awesome stuff. So I still do everything pretty much the same way. I still use emojis for status. I have this single top level note that like tells me what I currently have based on the color, and you can assign these tags to different colors, assign color and the position. But in updating Zotero, now that the actual icon will display next to the top level item, which was not working for some reason. It was actually displaying the internal Zotero colors. So I updated, and now I have this. Thanks to Danny Thatcher for actually showing that functionality existed, and that spurred my updating. But that's basically how I'm organizing things. So I can click a status and say, what's currently, what am I currently reading? And here I have all of these objects and all these items. And so I could open one and process it. I have an example here I've just been using, and which is finding gross motor ability in males with ADHD. And so if I open up that PDF, you can actually read the PDF inside of Zotero. You can mark it up. You can add notes to it, which I have on this one right here. And okay, that's basically where we were at before, is now I can edit this. But the problem is, how do I get these annotations, these notes, into Obsidian now that a lot of the workflow is broken? So we'll get to that in a second. I also still have all of my collections, which I'm doing mostly just for like large, high-level topics, or I read a book and I want to read all the sources specifically from that book in the context of knowing that these were cited in that book. That's how I use my collections. I still use Research Rabbit to search for different papers related to a particular collection. So if I want to use my ADHD paper collection and find additional papers related to the topic of ADHD as a whole, I have that linked to my Zotero collection, and I can sync that, and I can do some exploration with Research Rabbit, add those papers there, and then using a particular add-on that we will not explicitly name, here it is, you can download that and it will get you the papers that you want. So then after you have the papers, you have them in the collections, you're using Research Rabbit and everything's syncing, you got discovery, download, tagging, collections, all that stuff. I annotated my PDF, I read it, I researched it, I added those notes. Now how do I get those into Obsidian? Here's how I am now doing this workflow. I'd like to thank FlexiSpot for sponsoring this video. FlexiSpot is currently running a Black Friday and Cyber Monday sale, offering up to 50% off. FlexiSpot makes some pretty awesome sit-stand desks, and I can tell you that if you've made IKEA furniture before, building this desk was even easier. Their desks are sustainably made, look great, and feel great to work at. They have a top quality motor for a very smooth transition between sitting and standing positions, with up to 3 programmable heights. The control panel is both tactile and responsive, and the movement of this desk is even quieter than mine. I'm actually kind of jealous of my fiance now. With working from home not going away anytime soon, a quality place to work that allows for ergonomic adjustment and a break from the constant sitting is a must. The quality of the materials and design are readily apparent. There's even some very handy cable management materials provided to keep all the cables and cords nice and tidy for a clean and aesthetic workplace. These desks are not only top quality, they are affordable. Check out FlexiSpot. So if I start by going to this PDF, I can add my markup, I can add my notes, and now the content is saved to the actual PDF. Now I can see that I have item notes, I have all of this, tag, okay. This is not where I'm going to get my annotations. Now you can do it if you're here and just add note, item note from annotations, you can do it there. But where I've been doing it is if I go to the actual item itself that I want to use, which is here, I can look at all these items, but I go to the item and I right click, add note from annotations, just because I'm already in this menu. But you can do it on the plus sign earlier. Add note from annotations. And you can see I get a brand new annotations note here. Now where are my colors? Oh no, oh no. Relax. here it is, show annotation colors on the ellipsis. And now you can see the colors of your notes, as well as my response to a particular note. There it is. So you have both the original highlighted content, the citation information if you care. If you don't want that, you can actually hide this. You can show the item, edit the citation, whatever. But you also have your specific comments on that highlight right there. So now that the annotations have been extracted into this file, you can see that the colors are here, and I do believe you need to have the colors toggled on because this is currently displaying HTML in a very friendly way. It's not going to show you the code, but when you extract this, you want the colors to be shown so that the HTML that shows the colors is also brought with it. So I'm actually going to delete this newer one because I don't want duplication, but I'm going to delete that. So here's the older one. I still have these items, these notes. Actually, I need to delete that. It's a duplicate because of the old way. But here we go. Here are my annotations. So what are you going to do now? Now that you have this, how do we extract it to Markdown, put it into Obsidian? So I'm going to actually right-click on the entire collected item, the whole container. And I'm going to say MDNotes, create full export note. I'm going to get into the pieces of all these functionality and all of the little bits and pieces, templates, code that goes into this. So chill, we're doing high level right now. Create full export note. And so when I do that, it's going to ask me where do I want to save it. It defaults to a folder that I've given it, which is my Obsidian inbox, which I'm going to say OK. And then it's going to download. And now if we go to Obsidian and we go to my inbox note and I look for the paper, here are those notes. Let's make this a little bit more legible. So here is the actual paper. Everything to do with it. Now I have a bunch of other stuff going on here. I got some Dataview inline variables. I have a lot of extracted default information. I have a Dataview query here. I have the actual annotations. Okay. Wow. Okay, a lot of stuff here. Now, this is based on the template that I'm using. Now, something really cool with this Dataview query is that if I actually referenced this particular paper in another note, this is actually going to show me everywhere that this particular paper is referenced using the citation key that is automatically used by Zotero. So when I export this, you can see that this citation key goes into the alias. And so this alias, if it appears anywhere else, such as referencing oh, hey, there we go, a related line for all the related papers that are being used in this particular paper, it uses their citation keys. And now I can show those and link to it from this one. So if I, let's just cut that, and then I'm going to go to another note, and let's just say open that one up, and let's just put this here. There we go. So now, if I have that note there, there it goes. There it goes. So now, inside of this note about mean absolute error, which is just a note on statistics, you can now see that this particular item is now referenced in this Dataview query. And I can see created, modified, tags, type, whatever YAML metadata or extended property you want to add to those files through YAML or Dataview is now accessible through this query. And so this will help me keep track of the related notes and their papers inside of my personal system with minimal effort. Really, really useful. And I'll show you how I set all that stuff up in a minute. And so just a little bit more recap on the way that I have things laid out and my templates is that I have, I am not using a top level title anymore because the titles are now embedded within Obsidian. I like using live preview. I still have a lot of the same YAML things that I had, which is, tags. I still use various nested tags, which are all still defined in my tag taxonomy note, which is still publicly accessible. And so you can see that this is in my actual PKM. It's a inbox item, i.e. it's an input, a paper, a video, a podcast, something to draw notes from. It uses the little scroll emoji, which is what I use for papers. And then it has a red square, which means it is currently not processed. And so I can use that to basically tell me where I am currently on processing this paper into notes and following up on the references that are within that note. So if I reference other papers with the purple highlight and I want to go follow up on those, I can actually go and see that, oh, hey, this note is tagged with purple, so I know that there are things to follow up on this one. It's not quite finished yet. I use publish because I'm going to publish these publicly onto my public vault. The alias is the actual citation key so that I can find this paper by its citation key and use that as a piece of YAML metadata to search for when I'm trying to find references to and from this paper. Type, it's a paper. Status, it's still red. These are specifically for the supercharged links plugin only. This ties in with some CSS in my theme to actually display a particular emojis on this paper if I reference it as a link, which I will show you right here, which is right there. And so if I let that be a link and go to preview mode, it might, yeah, it's interesting. It's not updating live right now. If I go back and forward, will it update? Maybe, maybe not. But in any case, that is for the supercharged links plugin, which I'm not sure why it's not displaying, but that is what it is for. Now the next thing I have is the created and updated YAML metadata. This is from a single plugin that actually updates those fields to let you know that when it was created by you and when it was updated. Now I find this useful, especially for the created tag, because when I do like bulk edit operations or something in the command line on the files to like switch out some text or something, it basically rewrites the file in essence. So it really screws with the internal metadata for when the files were originally created. So having this actually placed here as text and updated by a particular plugin is actually handy for me because of some of the stuff that I do to my vault in that way. So I actually really enjoy that and use that. Now, I also have other various pieces of metadata, the type, which is similar to this as well. Type is paper, type is also this. This is specifically so I can actually use this in the graph to group papers by this particular note, which is the special symbol I use in the name of the note, which, if I did a search and typed the ampersand, now it's already looking for specifically just research papers, which I take notes on. Then if I added a particular date stamp, which is in the beginning of all my completed processing notes, because the ones that don't sort of float to the top here. But if I start typing 2020, I want to look at the research notes for research papers that I had from 2020. Those pop up to the top. If I make it 2021, those pop up to the top. 22, up at the top. So just that particular piece of information in the name of the note actually helps me find stuff easier in the quick switcher, which is why I do that. Plus, they also sort inside of the file pane a lot easier. Like if I opened up my files, you could see if I open up the main one, it's all the special symbols up at the top, which is inputs, grouped by inputs, and then chronologically sorted by the actual date that I finished processing those. Also really useful. And if I open up that one timeline note that I still really like, this is showing you those supercharged links. And again, I'm not sure why that one's not displaying for some reason, but regardless, maybe it's because of the type thing there. Maybe not. Either way. So this will let me see, the timeline view, but I'll get into something on that point a little bit more in a bit. But continuing on, now having all of these as YAML metadata through using inline Dataview is that I can actually query all of this information now. If I want to find keywords for papers and the notes that I took on them that had keywords for like ADHD, ADD, whatever, I can actually search for these keywords, as well as this one's actually a note. So I can make notes based on this. So let's just say I have a keyword across dozens of notes from papers, and I can see that it's a prominent feature in my vault. Maybe I need to make a note on that keyword. And so it's also working into the existing workflow I had of using these non-created notes as prominent potential nodes in my global graph. I can see this giant red node of uncreated note, and I can see that's pretty prominent. Perhaps I should turn that into an actual note. So this ties into that. Really, really handy. It also gives me automatic links to the DOI or the internal Zotero URL. I can click this and go back to the PDF. Sadly, I still have not figured out how to get it to where it takes me from the highlights directly to where the highlight is in the paper, but I've considered that, for having the rest of the system working as it is now, an adequate trade-off. I'm okay with that. I added it to the review date, which is linking to my daily note. The date added is just a Zotero date. I could probably remove the link from that. Whatever, it's a Zotero setting. Collections, again, is just the collection within Zotero, also searchable, and it actually is linking back again to the PDF. It's giving me the abstract and my Dataview query, as well as all the related papers, but by citation key. So if I ever go to these papers, I can actually find out where they are. And I'm actually probably going to remove the links from these because I don't know what the name of the file is going to be, but I just need to find out what is actually listing the related text. So that's just another Zotero setting. I have my exact same template, the way that I had it, all the stuff I want to actually go through when reviewing a paper for real, the actual highlights themselves, as well as any notes that I've taken on them. And at the bottom, a couple other things to follow up on, cited references, whatever. It's a work in progress. These templates are fluid, ephemeral. I will change them at will. And right now, I'm actually pretty happy with the way the workflow is set up. Still going to go through constantly making changes, but you can see a lot of the stuff has remained the same in my workflow as time has gone on. And right now, with the way that the workflow is now working with Zotero 6, this is actually a pretty pleasant experience now. All right, so you're telling me you've updated all the applications, all the plugins, you are ready to set your system up the way that I have mine set up to do my workflow the way that I'm doing it, so that you can then change things as you wish and stem off from what I currently have set up. Let's get you set up. So if I go and show you, let's start with Zotero. So in Zotero, there's a couple different things that I've changed. First of all, if I go to Tools and MDNotes Preferences, this will actually show you a lot of my preferences. Use the item site key as title. This is, yes, how I'm doing that. File organization, single file. I want everything into a single file. My links are using the wiki style. My export directory is literally the inbox folder inside of my Obsidian vault. Attach file links to Zotero, and then template folder. This is one of those advanced pieces of functionality within the MDNotes plugin that is in the documentation that I've taken advantage of and really enjoy. So I have inside of my templates folder, I have my MDNotes templates. Those will be available if you sign up to my newsletter, along with all of my other templates the way that they've always been. You can actually grab those just by signing up. I have not been sending newsletters because I've been really busy. But that's all the MDNotes preferences. Now that doesn't go into something very important, which is the advanced settings. Now I have these set up for both Zotfile and MDNotes, but I'm not sure that Zotfile is even applicable anymore because I don't think we're actually using it for this workflow anymore. But if I go to Zotero, Preferences, and I go to, where is it? General, or is it? It's Advanced. And go to Config Editor at the bottom. It's going to say, oh no, beware. I accept the risk. Now if I type MDNotes, this is going to show me all of the settings for the MDNotes extension. And you can see it says extensions.mdnotes. And then the setting name. The ones in bold are all of the ones that I have explicitly edited that are not the default value. All these other ones are default. You can see by status, they're sorted. So I have my directory saying inbox. I want single. So some of these are coming from the menu itself, but others are different. So these ones right here, placeholder, are the actual fields I'm pulling from a paper or its metadata in Zotero into my MDNotes template. And I'll show you those templates in a bit. But this is actually showing you all of this stuff and some of the things that I've set, such as don't make this a link, change this, the list separator as a comma with a space, and different settings in that respect. So what I actually want to do was, what did he say? Site key, link style, no links. I said related. So related here. Now what I want to say is link style says wiki. I want it to say, what was it? No dash links. Because I don't want those links anymore. Save, okay? And now I've made a change to that advanced setting. And if you want all these, I will save those to like a link in the description or something, and I will send those to you through there. But you can access all of this if you want. So I've updated those advanced settings. Now, if I go out of there, let's see if that change was actually implemented. So I'm going to actually delete that note, and I'm going to extract it again. So let's actually delete that output markdown file, right-click on the container as a whole, because we still have the same notes, it's just how it was extracted and placed into the template. Right-click on the container, MDNotes, create full export note. So yes, I'm going to save it to the inbox, same location. Now if we go back to Obsidian and open the file itself, here we go. Let's look at the related section. That's what I changed. There we go. Now it's just plain text, no longer the wiki links. So that will help you in actually modifying the settings that are flowing into your MDNotes templates. Now, what do the MDNotes templates look like? Let's bust those out. So let's go to my templates folder, and we're going to go to MDNotes. And there's only 2 templates that I actually use because of the way that I do my workflow. The way I do my workflow is that I have the, because I read my paper, process it, get the notes, and then extract those notes, I'm only doing one extraction. There's only one note file. I'm not extracting notes into each individual color because the colors are retained via HTML on the notes. So I show the colors, I extract everything to one note file. Then I want to just extract the whole thing, which is basically saying, hey, take the default template, and then for each note file, apply the note template and append that to the default template. So 2 templates, default, and then the notes. But because I only have one notes file, that whole template is appended only once. This is the desired behavior. So if I show you the 2 templates that I use, the default template for MDNotes, you can see that I have the tag, because it's unprocessed until I change that. I have the publish true, site key is the alias, and so these double brace template portions are the ones that actually drop in from Zotero. So Zotero, using MDNotes, knows to drop in those placeholder values into these sections, kind of like the Jinja templates, which is kind of the same syntax. So then we have type is paper, because it is, status, and then these are actually going to be used by the plugin. So these will be updated by the plugin when I actually create the note. Now, moving on, this is something that you didn't see. I have a templater piece of code here. Why do I have that? So what I do is, instead of doing this in MDNotes, which I found to be a little bit more difficult, I'm just using templater to basically say, what is the title of this note? The title is going to be filled in by MDNotes, which is going to be the actual name of the paper, not the site key. Even though I have it saying the site key is going to be the name of the paper, I don't leave it that. I don't care. I'm not going to do it. So I say, give me the actual, legible name of the paper, which is why the file was called right here, Fine and Gross Motor Ability in Males with ADHD, the actual name of the paper. And so then I say the date is going to be equal to the current date's timestamp. And then I rename the whole paper to special symbol character, the actual date, and then the title that I listed here. So basically I create the template, drop in all the data, do all the things, and then templater will then update the name of the file to match my naming convention, which is what I want. The next, it inputs all of those different pieces of information from Zotero. If it has a date added piece of data right here, this doesn't have a bullet point because the list separator inside of the MDNotes advanced settings will actually add that for me. And if it doesn't have a date added, this whole field doesn't even exist here. It doesn't add a line break, it just, bloop, it's gone. So it's actually easier to just do it that way. And then I also have the date going into the reviewed date, because basically if I'm making this note, that means I'm extracting it on that day, and that's when I've completed processing, or at least I've completed reviewing that note on that particular date. And that's what links to my daily note. And then the Dataview query, which is just, give me the created, updated, which is those 2 YAML pieces of metadata from that other plugin, which updated is changed to modified. Give me the tags, the type, and the related keyword, which is this inline Dataview value, which is fed from Zotero with MDNotes. And so then from the root, which is just show me every and anything, where contains, and here we go, where anything contains this related value contains any site key, which is basically what site key? The one from MDNotes, this current file. So from this file, insert this site key, and anything that has related equal to site key, any paper that references this one in the related field, show me all this data for it, which is why our note actually shows us this where we added it, because the related field had this particular site key in it. Then it's all just my default empty space. But hey, that's not everything. Where are the annotations and all the other stuff? This is the default template. So at the bottom is where the annotations that we're extracting are appended via the other template, which is, I believe it's the Zotero Note template. Yes, note content. That's everything being extracted from Zotero. So all of this content is getting dropped right here, all of it. And the rest of this is just stuff to add to underneath those notes for tying up the end of the paper, because I can't just drop that into here because this doesn't have note content. This is the default metadata template. So we do this one, then attach the note template for every single note file in there, which is only one, because we extracted everything into one. And then this template generates all the metadata, all the organization, everything that I have into here, into this glorious format that is now ready for me to process using my normal Zettelkasten method. I can take notes on these particular items. I can take the purple ones and I can recognize, okay, I have references I wanted to look up in here, and I can make these into tasks, which I very well might. And what that lets me do is now, using the database folder plugin that I saw a lovely video about from Danny Thatcher, again, Danny Thatcher, you're doing some good videos on Zotero stuff. You're getting me interested in some things. But I can take this note, these notes that I've made now, and I can go to my research database folder, and let's make this a little bit more legible. And so inside here, I have this folder with all these different filters that I want to add. So let's just say I want to look at all of my research papers, and okay, this one doesn't have a status showing for some reason, which I still haven't figured out why. But let's just say it had a purple because it has references to look up. So I could easily just say, hey, show me purple, and papers that are purple, which means they have, references to look up on. And now I can say, oh yeah, there it is, there it goes, which this is actually the same paper, just from when I actually reviewed it. So I still need to look up those references. And so this will let me progressively filter different things so that I can see all of my inputs and research. And if I remove these filters, this is showing me all inputs, every single input that I have in my system, but with supercharged links, I can see at a glance what they are. Or I could see that with the symbol, which is, a percent sign is for podcasts, so is this emoji. And then I could also filter it based on statuses or based on the type, or the default just show me everything. So papers are the only ones I use purple for, so that just shows me I only have one paper to find references for at the moment. But I could find everything that I currently don't have processed that is currently listed here. There we go. And this is how I'm managing all of my research at a glance using the database folder plugin. And if you want to see what this is set up as, I'll show you that next. So how did I set up the database folder plugin? Honestly, I took some trial and error because it was a little wonky figuring out the settings at first, but again, big shout out to Danny Thatcher for doing a lot of the initial exploration of it, because then I'm like, ooh, that's nice, I want to look at that. So I could open this as Markdown. I don't. I just edit the database settings, which you can also just do by clicking there, or the ellipsis. So open database settings, and this is basically saying show me everything from my actual Zettelkasten or the inbox, which is really the only place that the inputs would actually be located, such as the completed ones or the ones that are currently in the inbox, which shouldn't be. They should be put into the, yeah. So that's the query, pull all those things. And then I still haven't updated that. I keep it compact, sticky first column, which is just the name of the file. And then I keep tasks. So tasks, I have it activated. I just don't show it because it's it messes with the compactness of the view here. But what I do is that with tasks, I could make all of those purple research papers to follow up on as tasks, and then I can see every single paper to follow up upon in the tasks field. And I'll show you that in a second. And then inline fields as default when I create a new column and a new field for it, a new value. The rest of that's just defaults. It's really that simple. And so because this by default shows me everything, I have these filters set up which just use emojis. So basically everything by default has to contain the emoji, the nested tag for my inputs, which is the brain and inbox. The tags cannot be empty, so it has to be tagged, and it has to be tagged with that particular thing for everything. Then I have all these others, and it cannot contain a X in the status. And that's basically me saying, it's like, oh, I started reading this paper, but I don't like it, so I'm not going to finish it, and I don't like it, so I don't want it to appear here because I don't want to look at it anymore. It's not, I shouldn't tell me that I need to process it because I'm not going to. I don't like it. So kind of like your DNF reading list, did not finish. That's my do not finish. And then the tags are progressive, so it can be this and another thing. So it can be any of these statuses, any of these input types, and then that will filter progressively to let me see the actual inputs that I want to see. And this doesn't, get really laggy at all, even though I have close to 100 inputs in here, but I can easily filter down to different things. So let's actually go and re-add in the task thing. And so you can see that I have some of these listed as tasks, so I can see, oh, okay, I have some items to follow up on. This is no longer a super compact view, and now if I added everything else back in here, it gets all really wide, which is kind of wonky. I don't like that. So I'm going to leave the task pane off for now, but what I really should do is add in a filter specifically just for purple items with that task thing there. We'll see. I still need to figure out some stuff, but that's basically how the tasks work in there. So I'm going to hide that, and now back to compact. And that's how I'm basically managing the research items using the database folder plugin. Really friendly way of looking at this content. Now, in the same vein as the database folder plugin for my inputs, I'm also now doing my seedling and evergreen notes management within this exact plugin again, because now I don't have to use my old Kanban and then a nested Obsidian query, Dataview query inserted into a table to see like a live view or the Kanban plugin. I'm not using those plugins anymore. I'm not using those notes anymore. This is a much more convenient way for me to actually manage these notes in the same way, but using this. But then I can add filters at will. I can build this off of a Dataview query. And so this one, for my just general notes and seedlings, is using the Dataview query, sorry, same one. And then it's showing everything. It's pretty much exactly the same settings, copy paste pretty much. But then the filters are what's different. Again, progressive filters, but then they all have to contain the nested tag for my notes. And then the tags cannot be empty. But there's also this new tag. What is this exclamation point? That one is going to be any note that is like prominently focused, because it's not easy to just say, okay, here's all the, well, that's a bad example there. Here's all the seedlings. Which one do I pick first? I don't know. If I had one that was tagged with an exclamation point, that would show up as that's the current active one I'm working on. So let's just say that that's going to be the note for ASD or autism. So if I add a nested tag, and I'm going to add the exclamation point emoji. Okay, so now that has that emoji as another nested level. That's all it really needs, because now I could just filter that and it just has to contain that one. So any of these could contain this tacked onto the end of it, and it would get brought into here. So this is how I'm capturing, like, these are your focus items that you are working on right now. And I find this to be a very effective and really useful way of managing the way that I'm working on my notes now. So sometimes this might lag on updating. If you just toggle the filter again, there you go. And that's basically how I'm managing these notes. Now, for all of the advanced stuff with MDNotes and the add-on, Arjanos from the Obsidian forum, I still love your work. You've done amazing with this plugin. Bravo, as always. They have released version 2.0. So that's the current version that I had to upgrade to, that for some reason didn't automatically update. And it actually explains here and in the documentation, and I'm going to provide all the easy links to both MDNotes, Dataview, Zotfile, all the stuff. I'm going to provide all those in the video description, pin comment, all there. So you can just find those things there. And it tells you like which menu, what to select, what menu uses which template, and what functionality, and all this stuff in the documentation. And this is really clear, concise, exactly what you need to do to set this up. And I'm still jealous, Arjanos, that you got a dark mode for Zotero on your Linux distro. Need to copy that. But all of this is perfectly set up for you. It's very easy, and using the templates, you can drag and drop those into Obsidian, set up some of your the advanced settings, and then that's it. It's so much less complicated to set up, and I've had the headaches for you. I've had the headaches for you. You're welcome. Use my stuff, go from there, expand, change it, but get started and use this workflow. It's so much friendlier now. The work that the Zotero team has done, the work that Argenos has done on MDNotes, and the database folder plugin too, like all this stuff. Man, Obsidian is just getting even more and more fun to work with all these tools, and everyone's starting to accommodate Obsidian and talk about it too. It's a really great future for knowledge work and knowledge workers. So check this stuff out. Let me know if you have questions. If you have questions, use my FAQ repo on GitHub. The link is in the description. Answering and asking questions and showing examples and pictures and stuff on YouTube, very difficult in the comments section because YouTube comments don't lend themselves to being very easily formatted. So GitHub's your best place to ask me questions and provide visuals, screenshots, information, because I'm a visual person. I need that stuff. But let me know what you think. Let me know in the comments. Let me know if you have questions in my FAQ repo. Test out this workflow. Let me know any suggestions you might have, things that you've done. I've looked at a lot of resources on this, and I'm pretty happy with the way the workflow is, but I'm always looking for improvements, so let me know if you got anything cool. And on that note, I hope you enjoyed this video. I enjoyed all the research, finally getting a lot of this stuff configured. It's been a while since I've been able to dive into it because of school, but getting it set up, the database folder plugin too, it's just been such a blast. So hopefully some more of these videos like this coming in the future. Hope you enjoyed it. Catch you in the next one.